Now it's recording. So today I am interviewing World War II veteran Don Bunge. Am I saying that right? Okay. Today is November 30th, 2019. I'm interviewing World War II veteran Don Bunge. So here's the story. Okay, so can you start by doing training? Talk of training.
What's that?
Training?
Training.
Yeah, where did you do training at?
Well, when I was in college in 41, 42, there were some programs you could join in Navy, Air Force, Marines, and not be drafted, but you'd go ahead and finish school, and then you'd have to serve a few years afterwards you graduated. And I tried to join the Air Force, and they said I couldn't breathe in high altitudes. And so I didn't pass, and so I thought, well, I'll just wait till they draft me. And so when they did, I went to Camp Lee, Virginia for basic training. And after basic training, they kept me there for an instructor in rifle marksmanship and close order drill, and I was sergeant of the guard, and escorted some prisoners up to an interpreter's camp, German prisoners, into an interpreter's camp in Maryland. After a while, I got tired of that, and I said, well, I guess I want something a little more exciting. So I said, I'll try the Air Force again. So I passed the physical this time, and they sent me to Waco Army Air Base for some classroom training and to get familiar with the planes they were going to train you in and fly in. Wasn't there very long, and they said, we enrolled about 200 too many cadets to fly, so we can't use you, so you're going to have to move you back out of service someplace else. So they said, the infantry, and I said, no, I'm going to join the paratroops. So I joined the paratroopers, and I went to Fort Benning. It's located on the Georgia and Alabama border line there, and finished that. And after I finished, we were in Fort Benning waiting to be assigned somewhere. In the meantime, when I joined the paratroopers, supposedly it was a special group of volunteers that had some college education, and so we were trained as a special forces group to be assigned to wherever needed. And from there I went to Camp McCall in North Carolina for some little training, and then from there on a boat for 41 days through the South Pacific. Went to stopped at Hawaii, Eniwetok, Ulithi, a few places, and we landed and went in the Philippines at Batangas Bay in the Philippines. And from there we worked our way up into Manila and to the airport there at Manila, and then from there up into northern Luzon, the Lipa, L-I-P-A it was pronounced or spelled, and there was an air base there called Lipa Air Base, and didn't do much there except a little, I guess you'd call it jungle patrolling to look for stray Japanese that were bothering the villagers, you know, around in the northern Luzon. And so they had news that old general, I can't think of his name, that supposedly, I guess, hid gold and stuff in northern Luzon.
Are you talking about General Yamashita?
But anyway, they thought he was hiding up in the hills and mountains in northern Luzon, and so 545 made a jump in the Cagayan River Valley and found out, as usual, the Japanese took off somewhere into the woods or the hills, and I understand it took a few years or months, I forget what the story is, that before they found him after the war was over. He stayed in the mountains. But so there wasn't hardly any resistance there at all. We had more problems with shoot failures than we did with the Japanese. I guess because of I don't know, the weather, or the sheets had molded a little or something. But so back to Lipa Airstrip we went, and from there went to Okinawa, and flew to Okinawa, and we were sitting there waiting for the attack in Japan, and so while we were there, I don't know how long, I can't remember the dates or anything, and while we were there, the Japanese surrendered after they dropped all those bombs, big bombs, and so our outfit was the first troops to land in Japan then, after the peace assignment. We landed at Yokohama Air Base and didn't do much there. We looked into some of the caves they had built that people were going to live in if we attacked Japan. They were amazing, really. They had little narrow gauge railroads in there, and electric lights and little everything. Had a lot of supplies in there and stored in there. And from there then, while we were there, I had a chance to go over to what's the three places they dropped? Nagasaki was one of them, I think. They dropped the bomb, wasn't too far from Yokohama, and looked at that area one day, and after that I was sent to Sendai in northern Luzon, and for a while for occupation, and wasn't much going on, so I joined the basketball team in our regiment and played in the Pacific Olympics. Went to Tokyo, stayed in the Daiichi building, which was right across the street from the Imperial Palace, and you could see over the fence, you know, and into the palace and gates and so forth. Until I had accumulated enough points that I forget how many you needed and how they figured them, but to be shipped home. So back to the States I came, this time only a 14-day trip for the North Pacific, and back to college, finish up, and that was it.
Okay, now the general you were talking about, was that General Yamashita?
I think that's his name.
Yeah.
You look on the internet, and it'll give you some details about 11th Airborne, where we went and so forth.
Okay, can you tell me about your first jump?
Well, the first jump, of course, was a practice jump, you know,
Yeah.
a training jump.
Mm-hmm.
And in Georgia. But that wasn't anything extraordinary about it. Like I say, we landed and most of the Japanese had taken off for the woods. It was kind of near the end of the campaign there, and they had really more or less given up.
Okay. So what did Luzon look like when the Japanese were running away?
Oh, of course, Manila was a mess. Okinawa was a mess, you know. Everything been bombed and shelled into oblivion, really. And but northern Luzon was kind of like rural wooded and kind of jungle-like.
Really jungle
Kind of
fence?
situation, yeah.
Okay. Where were you when Pearl Harbor happened?
I was still in high school. That would have been early in 41, wouldn't it?
December 41.
Yeah. And I remember that, and after that, why, I went on to school after I graduated down there. It was called Indiana Central College then. It's University of Indianapolis now.
What did you think of the Japanese attacking Pearl Harbor?
Well, just like about everybody else, I thought this is kind of an amazing thing, and it was kind of like when they hit New York City, you know, back in, was it 9/11?
Yeah, 9/11.
And geez, this sort of thing happened, you know.
Okay. Do you remember what regiment and parachute infantry regiment you were?
We were in a 545 parachute regiment, 11th Airborne.
Do you know what company? It's alright if you don't know.